I always love it when a sequel is worse than the original. It's like watching someone step on a rake and hitting themselves right in the nuts, even though they put that rake there in the first place. This is because the best way to make a sequel, at least for video games, is by keeping everything the same and simply adding a grappling hook. It's a no-brainer, and Ubisoft's inability to add grappling hooks to Ghost Recon Wildlands when they made Ghost Recon BreakPoint shows how stupid they are as a company. Hello, my name is Jonathan Rosenblum, head game critic at Tibbs TV, and I might be stupid too, but even I can see how Ghost Recon Wildlands was the perfect opening for a sequel to come in and be truly amazing. And I cannot believe that they shit the bed so messily, but as a result, I'm so interested in how big of a failure Ghost Recon BreakPoint is, despite being technically bigger and almost better in every way, all because they never managed to get deeper. Let's start with Wildlands, which is far from a perfect game. In fact, it's an incredibly mid-single-player game that gets elevated to an okay game in multiplayer. But the one thing that the game does get right, and so many other games completely fail at, is giving the players freedom. The game takes place in Bolivia, featuring a fictional SEAL team as the protagonists, working for the FBI's Fringe division as they investigate a tech company that seems to be causing supernatural happenings. Just kidding, you're killing cartel members, and what has to be one of the most boring shooter plots I've seen since the other boring shooter plots that I literally cannot remember. But that doesn't matter, because you'll get to launch an assault in a supercar on a cartel outpost before calling in a mortar strike and blowing apart anyone you see with the noob tube from COD. And it all looks okay. I mean, it's kind of bland, there's clipping issues, but it's not like it looks so bad that it's unplayable. It sounds great, with machine guns sounding like what I hope they sound like, and suppressed bullets making the kind of pew pew I tell myself is realistic.
Hold up, they're gonna spot you.
But it's nowhere close to being as realistic as a Milsim, Battlefield, or even earlier Ghost Recon games. So the result of all this is something that's just okay. Not good, not great, just okay. And yet the core design is so open that it really gives you freedom to do whatever you want with your squad. When you're in single player, your squad is incredibly helpful, marking targets,
Eyes on 2 Unidad soldiers, over by the checkpoint.
and doing sexy sync shot takedowns.
Got one.
Only on occasion do the AI get lost, unable to think of any possible way back to you. And Ubisoft solves this problem by having them hilariously apparate directly on you. It never gets old driving away in the car, leaving your entire team in the dust, only to have your car sprout 3 bodies with machine guns to shoot down a car that's pretty much minding its own business. That lovable AI becomes absolute killing machines if you get knocked down. It is hilarious to watch the minimap and see the AI just absolutely delete all enemy presence on the map in an effort to revive you. And you can just leave them to die when they get hurt. They're perfect, they never get in the way, they're supernaturally helpful, an ideal friend. But the game gets even better when you have a real life friend and you're all just dicking around shooting down helicopters with a single grenade.
Get down. Helo's fucked.
Or completely ruining all immersion and steamrolling through story missions using that same grenade launcher. It feels like a bare bones game that's designed to let the player abuse its systems all in order to have fun. In fact, the easiest way of completing these incredibly repetitive missions is to just use a helicopter with Gatling guns. It all becomes too much of a good thing because there is rarely a scenario where the best move is not to fast travel to someplace, find a helicopter, and land that thing basically right on top of the mission marker, completing the entire mission in around 2 seconds before flying away. Occasionally, they'll make things hard by giving you a stealth mission, but it's the worst kind of stealth missions, where an alarm raise will instantly fail you. What Ghost Recon Wildlands desperately needed was a hardcore mod, something like going from Stalker to Stalker Anomaly. Those moments of using an attack helicopter to drill holes in cartel members are great, but they would be even better if they are slightly more rare. You would care about your squad mates a little more if they could die, or maybe if they weren't literal gods. And those drive-by assaults could be so much more fun if those cars had more depth and weight. The ideal result would be recreating the feeling of Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter, where every move felt tense and suspenseful. But that's not for casuals, so we got BreakPoint. BreakPoint is literally just Ghost Recon Wildlands Killzone. It is not even close to the direction they should have gone in. It's like jumping from Call of Duty Modern Warfare into the one with the sex pest in space, skipping over Modern Warfare 2 and Black Ops entirely. All because they don't have the balls to see that restricting some of the players' power would ultimately offer them more freedom. And that would fit perfectly with the vibe of Ghost Recon. It's pretty easy to tell that these games are influenced by movies and TV shows, mainly due to the fact that they use a lot of actors from films and TV shows. When a Wildlands operation is successful, at its best, it's supposed to feel like that border scene in Sicario. You're ghosts, you're untraceable, you're unauthorized, but you gotta fight that good fight, even if that good fight means accidentally killing a civilian or doing something morally gray. And the way to properly elevate from Wildlands was to dive deeper into that. Instead, they went robots, which is shameful, but understandable. After all, from a design standpoint, you can add new skill trees if there is new technology. That just makes sense. What they should have done was added focus depths to the system that they had by making it larger, by restricting previously basic skills and turning them into unlockables. The story could try to have a shred of nuance. The shades of dark gray found in the US foreign policy could shine through real characters. Maybe even try and make a narrative that says something about the insane things that happen in Ghost Recon. In BreakPoint, everything is bigger and meaner, but it's no deeper, so it really just feels the same as it ever was. I mean, it clearly looks better. You can really see John Barathol act the shit out of this thing. I mean, man, that bad boy does not know when to stop killing the game, even in this shit fest. But his good performance weirdly just draws attention to how everything else stayed pretty much the exact same, including all of Wildlands' problems. They didn't fix a thing. They just added things that needed more fixing.
You're dead! Let's kill them all!
It's why a common complaint of Wildlands and BreakPoint is that they're basically the same game, but Wildlands got okay reviews and BreakPoint got shit reviews, despite them being close to the exact same game. But Ubisoft isn't stupid, and realized about a year into launch they needed to make a hardcore mode that should have been in the base game. In fact, the intro to the hardcore mode plays instead of the old cinematic, showing just how sorry they are for changing nothing and only increasing the grind. They even added AI teammates back in, because they realized even if someone did like this piece of trash, they would never be able to convince a real human being to buy it as well. But even with the new team customization, these AIs are just helpful Terminators, lacking any flavor to their fighting style or personalities. Ultimately, the game is still the same as Wildlands, but without any of the charm of being the first cute stepping stone into an amazing game. Ubisoft said it learned its lesson, and it would be different going forward. But this feels like the same problem in Far Cry 5 to Far Cry 6. Far Cry 5 was decent. It had a story that felt fresh and solid gameplay to go with it, and it occasionally became absurd, but only when it needed to amp up the fun. A sequel needed to crank it down a notch and ground the tone of the series, and then let the player's absurd actions contrast that tone, just like it did in Far Cry 3. Far Cry 6 has a cookie-cutter story with a great TV actor that cranks the absurdity up to 11, removing any sense of realism or stakes, all while watering down the punch. I just want a game that is as good as Metal Gear Solid 5 was supposed to be. Is that so much to ask, capitalism? With the Game Standard here at Tibbs TV, I'm Jonathan Rosenblum.